I'm going to show you exactly how to ace the NVR Codes section of your 11 plus exam. So if you have the attention span to sit down for around 15 to 20 minutes while you watch this video, you will never again struggle with these questions in your mock exams or in your real exams. So let's get straight into it. I'm going to go very slowly through this help sheet and explain everything step by step. First things first, in a codes question, you're given a picture that is connected with 2 or 3 letters. Usually you'll have something like this with 2 letters. When you're reading instructions like this, first you want to relate what these words are saying, relate them to, for example, the example that they've given you. So like it says here, 2 or 3 letters. You can see here, letter 1, letter 2. So that's what they're talking about here. Each letter represents one or more of the NVR properties. Okay. What does it say here? So these are the NVR properties you can see here that they're talking about. Each letter is representing one or more of these. So let's have a read of what it says here. For example, the letters in this position could stand for shape, which will then mean the letter itself stands for type of shape. So what it's saying here is whatever letter is in this top right corner is going to basically determine what shape is here. And that means, for example, if the letter is A, it must be a square in here. And this will make sense once we come to the answer options that they give you. Same thing for the bottom one. What it's asking, what it's saying is the letter in the position could stand for the shading, and then of course B would then mean that the shading has to be diagonal. And just to recap, shading and shape, these are just two types of NVR patterns. You can see here, NVR properties, sorry. Instead of saying shading on our mnemonic here, it says pattern, but it's the same idea. So this is something you can memorize. Never sneak snacks to a crowded picnic. These are the main properties that will come up. So for example, the number of sides or something like that, size, shape, total, angle, etc. And then same thing for movement, orientation, placement and symmetry. But let's carry on. So you can see here what the actual question is likely to ask you is it's going to give you some of these options, which will have again a shape in the box and then 2 letters that relate to it. And then what it will ask you is to determine what the test shape is, what the code for the test shape is. And like we did up here, we have to figure out what these letters stand for before we can figure out what letters have to go in here. So if we read what it is letting us know, is the best way to do this is to identify a duplicate letter. So if we look across these shapes, you can see these 2 have Z, these 2 have A. I don't see any other duplicates. Okay, well, because the top letter is going to be a rule between 2 of them, we can see that if both of these have Z, they must have something in similar, because that will tell us what the Z actually means. If I'm looking for a similarity between these 2 shapes, I can see they're both colored in black. So immediately what I'm thinking is that maybe the top box is basically telling us what shading or what pattern is the shape is going to have. And then perhaps Z means that it must be a black shading. That would mean that this shape would have to have a Z in it, because this is also shaded black. And if we just look at the other 2, that would mean that Y is diagonal shading and X is cross-hatching. And that matches up, that makes sense. If, for example, we had Y and X here and these were still both the same shading, then we'd know that's actually probably a mistake that we made, because the letters weren't corresponding to the shading. But yeah, so I'm pretty sure this is going to be Z. We go to the next section, we know A and A. What could that mean? Well, these 2 are both squares, and I'm going to assume that the bottom section is determining what shape is inside, and A just means that it's going to be a square. So this can't be A because we haven't got a square in here, but what it can be is C, because this is what a triangle is, and then obviously if it was a pentagon it would be B. So this is what the code is for this particular shape. For this black triangle, it should be Z and C. And if we just look down, I think we come to that same conclusion. Okay, I'm going to go through an example question here, and then after that I'll pick out 1 or 2 questions from the actual workbook and go through them, so you can watch me doing them. But let's continue on with this one. Okay, like we said, always step 0 is to find a duplicate letter, sorry. So I'm already scanning it and I see B and B. Okay, well, what's similar between these two shapes? Well, I can see they're both pointing to the right, so the triangle is always facing to the right. So I'm going to assume B, or like the top position, this most likely means that which way the triangle is pointing, or the whole shape is pointing, and B probably means it's pointing right, meaning Z, if it's Z, it probably means it's pointing down, because that's what it says here, and then A would mean it's pointing up. So this one is pointing down. What letter is it going to have? It's going to have Z, because you can see here that's the same idea. Well, let's continue to the bottom section. We found another duplicate here. These two have D's. Well, what's similar between them? I don't really see anything similar apart from the shapes and the size of the triangle. So the triangle is a bit smaller in this one, whereas obviously in the other two, if we look at F and E, this is a massive triangle and this is a medium-sized triangle. So what I'm going to assume is F means the triangle is going to be medium-sized, D means it's going to be small, and E means it's going to be big. Well, this shape has got a small triangle, so then it's going to be D and not F or E. And we've got that idea here, orientation and size. So orientation just means the way it's rotated, and size again is self-explanatory. And what answer do we end up getting here? C and D. Oh, sorry, that should say Z and D. I think that's a typo there, so we'll get that fixed. Yep, there we go. But let's go through some of the top tips here. The same letter may be used in more than one position in the code. If the same letter is, yep, so this is basically just letting us know that you want to be looking for a duplicate letter immediately, and you can see that actually here as well. All of these A's, that's the first thing that you should be looking at when you see a codes question. That's exactly how you work out any codes question. You should be able to get all of these right actually, if you're able to just figure out the duplicate letter and then find the similarity there. So also don't forget to focus on one letter at a time. This is important because sometimes if you're trying to do too many things at one time, you could make a mistake. So it's easier to again go letter by letter. So find the duplicate, apply it, find the duplicate, apply it, like that. And yeah, let's go and find ourselves an example question to do. Okay, we got 2 of them here, question 12 and question 13. Try these out. Again, they can come in loads of different forms, so you can see here, these aren't in a box, but they're still given a 3-letter code instead of a 2-letter code. And these ones, again, these are put in boxes, but 3-letter codes instead of the 2-letter ones that we saw above. The idea is always the same. Each position will always stand for one thing. So obviously if it's 3 letters, it's going to be a bit more complicated than having just 2, but if you're able to recognize this type of question, you'll be fine. So again, let's go through this. Look for some duplicates. I see in position 1 there's a duplicate. So this one is X, this one is Y, this one is X, this one is Y. Right. So what can we say? Let's look for X. Let's look at what X could be meaning for now. What's the similarity between this and this? Well, it looks like these two both have black left sides, so that could be it. And they also have this thing pointing to the right. This is also pointing to the right. Okay, so it could be either of those. If we look at the second one, in the same position, we've got another duplicate. This is Y and this is Y. Well, that means there has to be a similarity between these two. And they have to be, for example, they have to be meaning the same thing. So for example, if X meant that the left side has to be black, then Y would also have to mean that this has to be straight lined. It can't be a rule in a different position, you know? Each position, like we went over above, means a certain thing. And we have to decide what this position means. So the reason why it can't be that X means it's black is because these two both have Y, but they have different shadings on this section, right? So this is like a brick format, and this is lines, so that can't be it. So we have to look for a different similarity as to what the first letter, the thing in the first letter could be meaning. Like we said, the other thing that we saw was X means it points right, so that could be it. Well, what could Y mean then? Y means it's pointing left. Does that apply to this one as well? Yes, so it looks like Y will always mean that the bottom shape is pointing left, and X will always mean that the bottom shape is pointing right. So let's go and apply that to this. This one is pointing left, so that means it's going to have to start with Y, so we can actually cancel out 2 options already. Alright, we're getting closer. We want to speed it up a bit now because obviously you don't want to be spending too long on these questions. Okay, the second position, do I see any duplicates? I see this has A, and this also has A. So again, when we're looking for a similarity between these two, I see the other one that we haven't used yet, and we talked about already, was that the left shape is black. Well, is that going to work? Well, this is D, and this means lines, and this is B, and that means bricks. So that could work because they're different letters and they've got different patterns here, so that makes sense. So I think I'm going to go with that. That would mean that this one would have to have B in the second position because it's bricks. It looks like we can't cancel anything out from that, so we're just going to carry on going. Find out what the last letter could mean. M, N, O, P. Okay, it looks like we've got nothing there. No similarities or no duplicates. But really, there's only one other thing that we can actually go by in this, and that is the right-sided shape. Right? Because all of these are completely different, we can just assume that, for example, this pattern means P, this pattern means O, this one means N, this one means M. Well, this one is definitely an O pattern. You can see they're matched. So it should be Y, B, O, and that gives us D. Okay, well, let's quickly do question 13 and finish it off. I'm going to try and do this much faster now. So immediately, actually, I'm going to look at the shapes first. I can see that there is a smiley face in different positions. What I'm going to assume is one of these letters is going to tell us which position the smiley face should be in. Because there's no duplicates for that, I'm just going to look straight here. Look for position 1. There's A and A, okay, so, and then B and B. Alright, so these two definitely have to have a similarity between each other. I found the similarity. It looks like the arrow is pointing downwards to this corner, and A means that the arrow is pointing this way. So this one is going to have to be A because it's pointing like that. Okay, we can cancel out E. What else is there? For the middle letter, there is no duplicates, meaning it has to be a rule that is different in all of them. I think that could be the smiley face because they're all in different positions, but I'm going to skip that for now. Let's look at the last letter. So these two are P. What are the similarity of them? I see this is a straight line, this is a straight line, and these two are Q. These are dashed lines, these are dashed lines, right? Meaning this is going to have to be Q because there's a dashed line on the arrow. So actually that would give us the right answer because there's only one that is ending in Q. And obviously that would also say that the smiley face, I don't know what the middle letter is actually. I don't know what it means particularly. I think it could mean the arrows, but we've already figured out the answer from that either way. Actually, I'm going to go back on that statement because I think it's a good idea to double check what is going on with the middle letter. We do want to have a idea of what the rule could be. Again, there is no duplicates here, but we know, for example, if it was the smiley face, like I hypothesized, the smiley face is in this position here, and this one here, meaning our answer should have a Z in the middle if it did mean smiley faces. It can't be. So if we're going with D, like we did before, it can't be Z. I mean, it can't mean smiley face because there's no Z. Actually, none of the options have a smiley face in that position, so it can't. This basically can't be referring to the smiley faces. It must be referring to something else. Let's have a look. What else could there be? I can see the lines in the back, so there's this cross and the arrow. This one has got a plus, this one's got a cross, and this one's got a plus. That doesn't seem to indicate anything. What about a number of sections that we've got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That could be it. What we need here is something that is different in all of them. I also see if the smiley face is upside down, that seems to mean that this is Q. So that's another thing that it could be. And if the smiley face is facing upwards, that would mean that it's P. So that's another thing. I'm trying to figure out what the Z, Y, and X and V could mean, because we need something that is different in all of them. Alright, I do see something that is different in all of them, but it's a bit harder to spot. So I think what would make more sense with this is that the arrow is facing right, so that means Z. This arrow is dashed and facing right, and that means X. This one is facing to the corner, but it isn't dashed, that means it's Y. But this one is dashed and pointing down, that means it's V. And that's the only other thing it can be, and that's why my hypothesis at the start, where I said P would mean straight lines and Q would mean dashed lines, is wrong. So it can't actually be AXQ, solely because we need something. We need the middle letter to mean something, right? And that's the only thing it could mean. So that's why we can't have it. We can't have the dashed and straight line rule. But what we can have is the upright smiley face or the inverted smiley face. So again, like I said just a second ago, it means the smiley face is downwards, and P means it's facing upwards. So this one has to be P, so it has to be one of these three options. And like we just spoke about, the middle letter determines what the arrow is, and this is a dashed arrow that is facing right, meaning it has to be X, which is B. So that's a bit more of a difficult one there, but I think that's a very useful one to know about. For example, if you come up with a question like this in the exam, where it might be trying to trick you into thinking that the dashed and the straight lines are equivalent to the Q and the P, but they can't be, because you need something. You need each letter to mean something. Unless specifically it states that you can have distractors and they don't always mean something. Let's just go back up to the top, just to round it all off and really give a final explanation on what you need to be doing. Like I said a few seconds ago, each letter, it says here, each letter represents one or more of the NVR properties. So even if we're given 3 letters, like we were down there, X, Y, Z, all of them has to represent something. And I wasn't able to find what the middle letter was representing, so I had to change my answer. But yeah, same idea as always. This position is representing a property, this position is representing a property, and the letter itself is representing what type of property that is. And that was the same with the 3-letter ones, like we did down there. All that changed was this was position 1, this was position 2, this was position 3, whereas in the ones I showed you at the start, this was position 1, this was position 2, right? But the idea is you'll always have like a position where the letter is going, and then the letter itself will mean something different. But yeah, hopefully that was useful. Hopefully you can smash all your NVR codes questions now.